They all can't wait to get the coach in. Jim Barker from the CFL on TSN. Hey, Coach, I can't start with you. I can't wait to ask you this. Alouettes win last night, 20-16. Davis Alexander comes off the bench at halftime, leads the Owls to the win. A star is born or luck?
Or a young guy had a great half. He had a great half. Danny has liked him. I talked about him at training camp with Danny, and they've kept him around for 2 years for a reason. I mean, they think he's really got some ability, but maybe not quite ready. And I think he showed, you know what, I'm ready. And it was pretty interesting the way he played. It was 2 football games, and I've really never seen anything like it, because Saskatchewan dominated in the first half. They dominated them in every sense. Physically, they dominated them on offense, on defense. And then the second half, it was like Davis Alexander takes him the length of the field, the first drive, and it was almost like you could feel the riders kind of say, oh no, what is this? And basically they didn't have the ball in the second half. I mean, Davis Alexander, it almost seemed like every time they touch it, they were going to take the ball the length of the field and score. And he made some big plays with his feet and avoiding the rush. Again, it was, the Lowther's field goals so well kicked, and they hit the crossbar. And, it was a great football game. But it was 2 football games. It was the first half, and it was the second half.
Well, the Rider fans are going to want to know your thoughts on what did you see? How are you not able to stop this? I mean, I've never been in that position, so I'm not even going to try to guess, but is it as simple as they'd never had Davis Alexander on film before? I mean, as a runner, he's exceptional, but he was putting the ball on people downfield too. I mean, was it all him? How can Sask not figure out a way to stop this guy over 30 minutes?
Well, their game plan was for Caleb Evans, who can't throw the ball the way he does over the middle and those types of things. But I don't think that's it, as much as, when a team gets momentum, they're hard to stop. And I think you got to give Montreal credit. I give Saskatchewan total credit for the first half, the way they played in the first half. They dominated. They had lost A.J. Ouellette. They had lost Keon Schaefer-Baker, yet they still, Hickson had 100 yards rushing in the first half. I think what happens is they take it down, and all of a sudden the defense is like, wow, we can't let these guys have an inch. So now they do things a little bit differently. They're maybe going to try to play, a little bit more cautiously, and then they go down and they score again, and before you know it, they're behind. And it's 17-16, and you could just feel their offense change modes. Instead of let's let Hickson control this game, it's like, wow, Shea's got to make a play. He's got to get us we need to get a big play to Bain or get the ball upfield to a Joe. And you just had that feeling they felt like they needed to do that, because they didn't feel like, I felt like their defense felt like, they're going to, the Saskatchewan defense felt like, I don't know whether we can stop these guys. I mean, they've almost seemed, it was really a bizarre thing, Rod. Milton Enoch and I were talking about it, how the team basically just completely changed in the second half. And you know what? It'll be a great learning experience for them. It really will. And Enoch said it's a strange feeling when these kind of things happen. But it was something that the three of us have been around a lot of football, and we're absolutely befuddled by the way the thing came down in the second half. But, and he said it was a lot about when you're on defense and you can't stop them, it's like you're going to try to do whatever you can, and now you're going out of your lane. You're maybe pushing too wide, and they're throwing inside. And, again, I hate to – I can't give Davis Alexander all the credit. He gets a lot of credit. But some of it was the way the things changed for him.
You talk about being on the panel last night. I'll quickly say I was at a fundraiser last night for CFL Fans Fight Cancer. I'm back in Saskatchewan for the summer. I'm sitting at a table full of Rider fans. You came on the TV, and I said, nobody wants to hear from that Barker guy. I looked around the table. This lady goes, he's on your show every week. I said, I was just looking to see who was listening. So they were all tuned in. We might have to go a little long on this segment because Clay and Brandon wants to know, can you please ask Jim what he thinks of quarterback Shea Pedersen?
I'll tell you this. Big Hill got fined for the late hit on Pedersen. And I became a huge Shea Pedersen fan because he came out. We have so many quarterbacks crying about different things. And he took that hit and he said, you know what? That was on me. I didn't throw the ball in time, and he's playing football, and I deserved it. And you know what? I said, taking accountability for something, that's just not common. And I became a huge Shea Pedersen fan, and I think he's growing every week. The second half was maybe a bit of a setback, but it was, again, in a position where we got a big lead. Now all of a sudden we're behind, and he hadn't been in that situation. Again, I thought he made some good plays. Picton being out of bounds, that would have given him a first down, and give him a chance to drive the ball down the field and for a winning score. So I've become a big Shea Pedersen fan. I first met him at a workout camp down in the States, and I said, why do you act the way you act? And he says, you know what? My dad said the exact same thing to me. And he has found a home in Saskatchewan where sometimes personalities need to be around other personalities. And Corey Mace and Mark Mueller and those guys are easy guys to get along with. And Shea Pedersen is at home there. And I think he's a great backup quarterback in the league.
Well, listen, I've only spent a half a century here. I kind of know how it goes. And here's the thing. They've been kissing Corey Mace's butt since the day he was hired. But now people lighting some fires. We've lost 2 or 3. How come you didn't adjust? Blah, blah, blah. You're going to find out what it's like around here. It's not all unicorns and rainbows.
And you know what?
You got to win.
Rod? And you know what, Rod? To that point, I think it's gonna show a lot about how Corey Mace is. Because you're right. When you're winning, that's the greatest job in the world. But you're right. 2 losses, and they're already like, whoa, we've lost 2 out of 3. What's going to happen? And this team has always started well. Last year, I think they started, I don't know exactly, but it was just Labor Day on. They couldn't win a game for 2 straight years. So, again, I don't see that happening. I really do think we gave medals in our pregame show. We gave Olympic-like medals for the season. And my gold medal went to Corey Mace. Milt Stiegel's gold medal went to Corey Mace. What he has done is remarkable. He's changed an entire organization, a team, and really a community, the mindset. And like Milt said, people aren't going to the lake. They're wanting to go watch the Riders. And that's a credit to what he's done. And he says the right things. Like Shea Pedersen said, it takes things like that when a guy is accountable for himself. I find that, so exhilarating.
Rare.
Yeah. We had McLeod 2 weeks in a row talking about the schedule, and somebody needs to sit him down and say, this commissioner went to a 21-week schedule to give teams more buys so that they wouldn't have this. That's why they play so long, because he didn't want these short weeks. And yeah, do you have a few? You absolutely do. But my goodness, I mean, it's a bandwagon he needs to jump off of.
So to the fans of the other teams, Friday Night Football, the Ottawa Redblacks look to stay perfect at home tonight when they host the Calgary Stampeders. Ottawa 3-0 at TD Place, 4-2. This year, their best start in franchise history. Stamps 0-3 on the road. What do we see tonight at TD Place?
It's one of the most interesting games of the weekend, because I think you have 2 teams that are both wanting to be upper echelon teams. Ottawa's basically won 4 games, and the teams that they've beaten in those 4 games have won 3 games. They beat Edmonton twice, they beat Hamilton, and they beat Winnipeg. That's their 4 wins. Calgary, on the other hand, has basically that win last week against BC was big, because BC came in on a high. It was a game that I think BC felt like they could really get some separation, and Calgary came out and played great. Calgary's on a short week, and Ottawa's basically had a long week. I think they played Thursday last week, so they've had over a week to prepare. So they have a little advantage there. But I see Calgary coming in there and really giving them everything they want. I think the secondary in Ottawa is still a little beat up, but they're getting better because they're playing the same guys. Now Dandridge will be coming back soon and that kind of thing. But this is a fascinating game. Dedman is going to be out, which doesn't sound like a huge deal. They lost both Dedman and Harris, their two returners. Well, what that does is that takes Pimpleton, who has been such a key part of that offense. He's now the returner. You have a head coach that's a special teams guy, so that guy's not getting rest on special teams. I can tell you that. So he's going to get rest on offense, which takes their big playmaker off the field. I think that hurts them a lot by having those returners out. And now Pimpleton will be great as a returner, but it will affect his ability to play on offense. So the game's fascinating. It's got a lot of interesting things. And Jake Mayer is. I heard Matty DeBuck talk about him, and coaches love guys like him because he does what he's supposed to do. He's pretty consistent, and he's coming into his own. And hopefully, he finishes this year the way he did his first year. And this game I think is big for them to move into that upper echelon with BC. Or are they going to move down into the lower echelon? And it's the same thing for Ottawa. Are they Toronto's 500 right now. They're just hanging on till Chad Kelly comes back, 3 more games. Obviously, Montreal is the class of the East right now at 6-1. Is Ottawa closer to Montreal, or are they closer to Hamilton, who is, 0-over?
Right.
Or 1
If it wasn't for that potential Grey Cup preview last night, my game of the week would have been Winnipeg at Toronto. Maybe just because my favorite color is blue. But I always think it's special when the Bombers visit the Argos. Come on, Toronto, get out and fill BMO Field. That's a good one.
That's a great game. I love all the games this week. I usually love them all every week, but I love that game, the Winnipeg game. I think Winnipeg needs this game, maybe even more than Toronto. Who Toronto's going to start at quarterback, he hasn't even said yet. I think he'll probably start Dukes and have a really short leash and put Arbuckle in. He feels more comfortable with Arbuckle because Arbuckle can, the way people are playing Dukes now is they're sitting back in zones and saying, you're not going to be throwing that dig route consistently against us. You're not going to throw the ball over the middle. So we're going to bunch everybody in and make you throw the ball outside and make sure you don't run. And when they do that, it really causes problems. Plus, when Dukes has a long field, it makes it more difficult for him. So Arbuckle, he can do that. He can throw that ball. The problem with Arbuckle is he comes up with 1 or 2 plays that make you go, what are you doing? And if he doesn't do that, when you only play a little bit in the fourth quarter, you don't get a chance to do that. If he doesn't do that, he's a very effective quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. And Winnipeg, are they back? Is Zach going to, be able to get it back? I didn't think he played well last week. I thought 2 weeks ago he started to show signs. But then, between Ontario Wilson and Josh Johnson, his 2 new receivers, I know Matty asked about Lawler. I think he's going to be extended on his 6th game. It may not take the whole 6 games, but it may only take half of that. But he's still got a bit to go, and they need him. So Brady Oliveira, slowly but surely, he had 125 yards, and last week they just went away from him. It made no sense why they did that, but they did. And so, there's a lot of things that game is going to answer. I think it's a huge game for Winnipeg, because if Winnipeg falls too far behind those teams, and should Calgary win tonight, that makes this game even bigger for Winnipeg. So it's going to be tough. It's tough for Winnipeg coming into this stadium. It's hard to play at BMO Field because it's the only natural grass. So that's going to be interesting. And then the Sunday game, the Edmonton and Hamilton. Edmonton looked more in disarray after the change than they did at any point with Chris Jones. And we talked about it on the show last week, that going from the booth to the field, and again, they win the toss and defer. The wind was a huge factor. I mean, we saw Lewis Ward miss a PAT, and Beatty missed 2, and the wind in the first half was a huge factor. At halftime, he chooses to take the ball instead of get the wind in the fourth quarter. So Ottawa ends up with the wind in both long quarters, and it's like, what are you doing? And I thought I just, again, it's a different thing managing a game as a head coach. So they just seemed much more discombobulated than they did when Jones was there. And I don't really see them winning this game. I think Hamilton is starting to get it together, and again, it's tough going west, but I don't see it.
Well, I get it. Maybe that's why. I'm not sure who's favorite. Doesn't matter. I'll go against the grain and pick Edmonton because nobody else is. Coach, enjoy the game. Statistically, it's been the best season of CFL football ever. It's been great. You're the biggest part. Thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the games.
Appreciate it, Rod.
The CFL on TSN's Jim Barker.